Queen Vila stood alone at the observation window of her last remaining warship. Below her, the capital city of her empire burned. Orange flames rose from buildings that had stood for 10,000 years. The great libraries, the healing temples, the gardens where her children once played, all of it was turning to ash. She pressed her silver hand against the cold glass. Her reflection stared back at her. She looked old now. The people could live for 500 years, but war had aged her in ways that time never could. Her golden eyes, once bright with hope, now held only exhaustion. "My queen," a voice said behind her. Vila did not turn around. She knew that voice. It belonged to Commander, the last general of the military. He was tall and thin, like all their people, with pale blue skin and 3 fingers on each hand. He had served her family for 200 years. "How many ships do we have left?" Vila asked. Her voice was calm, but her heart was breaking. 12, my queen, 12 ships out of 3,000. Vila closed her eyes. 3,000 ships, the greatest fleet in this part of the galaxy. The Dominion had destroyed almost all of them in just 3 cycles. 3 cycles. That was all it took to end an empire that had existed for 20,000 years. "And the ground forces?" she asked. Was quiet for a moment. "There are no ground forces, my queen. We never had ground forces. We stopped training soldiers 8,000 years ago. We thought the age of war was over." Vila finally turned to face him, looked ashamed. He should not feel shame, she thought. None of this was his fault. They had chosen peace. They had chosen to become artists and scholars and healers. They had looked at the violence of the universe and said, "We will be different, we will be better." And now they were dying because of that choice. "Show me the enemy," Vila said. Touched a panel on the wall. A hologram appeared in the center of the room. It showed the war fleet, hundreds of massive black ships shaped like the claws of predators. They themselves were terrifying creatures. They were twice the size of the covered in thick armor-like skin, with 4 arms and faces designed for war. They lived for conquest. They fed on the resources of the worlds they destroyed. Warlord Thane was their leader. Vila had seen him once in a communication before the war began. He had offered her a choice: surrender her empire or watch it burn. She had refused. She had believed that the galaxy would help her people. She had believed that good would win against evil. She had been a fool. "They are approaching our remaining population centers," said. "We estimate 40 million are still alive on the surface. If we do not evacuate them in the next 2 days, they will all die." 40 million. Once her people numbered in the billions. Now 40 million was all that remained, and even they were running out of time. "Where can we go?" Vila asked. "They have conquered 90% of our territory. Our allies have abandoned us. No one wants to anger the Dominion by sheltering our refugees." Hesitated. She could see the uncertainty in his face. Whatever he was about to suggest, he did not like it. "There is one place," he said slowly. "A quarantined sector at the edge of known space. The species there is young. They only started traveling between stars about 200 years ago. They are not part of the Galactic Assembly. They may not follow us there." "Which species?" Vila asked. "The humans." Vila had heard of them. Everyone in the galaxy had heard strange stories about humans. They were small creatures who lived very short lives, less than 100 years on average. They came from a single planet called Earth. They were emotional, unpredictable, and often violent with each other. Most advanced species considered them too dangerous and too primitive to join galactic society. "The quarantine exists for a reason," Vila said. "Humans are not trusted." "No, my queen, but they are also not conquered. They have shown no interest in human space. Perhaps we can hide among them. Perhaps they will give us shelter." "And if they refuse?" Had no answer for that. Vila looked back at the window. Her burning world reflected in her golden eyes. She thought about her husband who had died holding her hand as their palace collapsed. She thought about her two daughters who had been on the first ship destroyed by the attack. She carried their memories inside her chest like stones. She was queen of nothing now, but she was still responsible for her people. 40 million needed her to make a choice. "Prepare the ships," she said. "We go to human space." The journey took 4 days. 4 days of hiding, of running, of watching the stars for pursuers. The 12 ships were not warships. They were transport vessels, science vessels, ships designed for peace. They had no weapons. They had no defenses. They survived only because they did not know where they had gone. On the 5th day, they arrived at a human space station called Station. It was small compared to structures, a spinning wheel of metal floating in the darkness between two stars. Human ships moved around it like insects around a hive. They were ugly, practical things, built for function rather than beauty. Vila watched the station grow larger in the window. This would be the new home of her people. This tiny station, surrounded by a species that most of the galaxy feared and avoided. She opened a communication channel. Her voice went out into the void, carrying the last hope of the Empire. "This is Queen Vila of the people. We come in peace. We come seeking shelter. Our empire has fallen. We are refugees. We have nowhere else to go. Please, help us." The silence that followed lasted only a few seconds, but to Vila, it felt like years. Then a human voice responded, rough, uncertain, speaking in a language her translator struggled to process. "Vessels, this is station control. We've received your message. Please hold your position. We're sending representatives to meet you." Vila let out a breath she did not know she was holding. It was not acceptance. It was not safety, but it was a chance. And for the first time in 3 cycles, a chance was more than she had dared to hope for. Behind her, Commander stood at attention. "What do we do now, my queen?" Vila watched the human station spinning slowly in the darkness. Small, primitive, strange, but alive. The humans were alive and they had not said no. "Now," she said quietly, "we learn to ask for help, something our people have never done before." The stars around them were cold and unfamiliar, but somewhere in that coldness, Vila felt something she had forgotten, a tiny spark of hope, wiped the sweat from his forehead and lifted another crate onto the transport belt. The cargo bay of Station was hot, loud, and dirty. Machines beeped and hummed. Workers shouted orders over the noise. The air smelled like engine oil and recycled oxygen. He liked it here. In the cargo bay, no one asked questions. No one cared about his past. He was just another worker, moving boxes from one place to another, earning enough credits to pay for his small room and his simple meals. It was a quiet life, a safe life, exactly what he wanted. Was 32 years old, with short black hair and tired eyes. He was not tall, not strong, not special in any way that people could see. He wore the same gray uniform as every other cargo worker. He did his job, kept his head down, and tried very hard not to remember. But memories have a way of finding you, even when you hide. "Hey," the voice called out. He turned and saw Bora, one of the senior workers, walking toward him. She was a heavy-set woman with a kind face and a loud voice. "Your sister called again," Bora said. "Third time today. She says it's urgent." Side always said everything was urgent. That was just how she was, passionate, caring, always trying to save the world one person at a time. She worked for the station's refugee assistance program. She helped displaced aliens find homes, food, and safety. It was good work, important work, the kind of work used to believe in. "Tell her I'll call back after my shift," he said. "She said you'd say that," Bora smiled. "She also said to tell you, and I'm quoting here, if you don't answer, I'm coming down there myself, and I'll embarrass you in front of everyone." Almost smiled, almost. "Fine, I'll take a break." He found a quiet corner near the loading dock and pulled out his communicator. His face appeared on the small screen. She was 27, 5 years younger than him, with the same black hair and the same stubborn expression their mother used to have. Finally, she said, "Do you know what's happening up there?" "I'm in the cargo bay. Nothing happens in the cargo bay." "Well, something is happening now. They are here, thousands of them. They arrived this morning and more ships are coming. The whole station is going crazy." Had heard rumors about they were some kind of advanced alien species, very old, very peaceful. He did not pay much attention to galactic politics. Galactic politics had never done anything good for him. "So what do you need from me?" he asked. "I need help. We don't have enough people to process all the refugees. We don't have enough food, enough beds, enough anything. I need volunteers. I need you." He was quiet for a long moment. 5 years ago, he would have said yes immediately. 5 years ago, he was a different person. "I'm not good with people anymore," he said. "You know that." "You're better than you think." His voice softened. "Please, just a few hours. You can hand out supplies, help set up beds, nothing complicated. I wouldn't ask if I didn't need you." Looked at the gray walls of the cargo bay. He thought about his shift, his routine, his careful little life. Then he thought about his sister, who had never stopped believing in him, even when he stopped believing in himself. "Fine," he said. "A few hours, that's all." The refugee center was chaos. Had never seen so many aliens in one place. They were strange and beautiful, tall and thin, with silver or blue skin and large golden eyes. They moved gracefully, even when they were exhausted and afraid. Many of them carried nothing but the clothes they wore. Some of the children cried quietly. Some of the adults stared at nothing, their faces empty. Knew that look. He had seen it in his own reflection years ago after he lost his unit. It was the look of someone who had survived when others did not. Put him to work immediately. He carried boxes of food from storage. He helped set up beds in a gymnasium that had been converted into temporary housing. He handed out water bottles to aliens who did not understand his language but understood his kindness. Hours passed, his back hurt, his arms were tired, but he kept working. It was late in the evening when he saw her. She was standing in a corner of the processing center, away from the crowds. She was tall, silver-skinned, with golden eyes that seemed older than the stars. She wore simple clothes, the same as any other refugee, but something about her was different. The way she stood, the way she watched the room, as if she was responsible for everyone in it. A station official was speaking to her. Could not hear the words, but he could see the official's face. It was impatient, dismissive, the face of someone who saw refugees as problems rather than people. The silver-skinned woman listened without expression. When the official walked away, she stayed where she was, alone in the crowd. Did not know why, but he walked toward her. He picked up a bottle of water along the way. "Here," he said, holding it out to her. "You should drink something." She looked at him. Her golden eyes studied his face for a long moment. Then slowly she took the water. "Thank you," she said. Her voice was quiet and tired, but there was strength in it. "Bad day?" asked. He did not know what else to say. Something strange happened to her face. It took him a moment to realize she was almost smiling. "Yes," she said. "You could say that, the worst day of many lives." Nodded, he understood that. He understood it better than she knew. "It gets easier," he said. "Not better, maybe, but easier to carry." The woman looked at him differently now. Not like he was a stranger offering water. Like he was someone who understood something important. "You speak like someone who has lost much," she said. "Everyone has lost something," shrugged. "That's just life." "No," she shook her head slowly. "That is survival, and survival is something my people have forgotten how to do." Before could respond, appeared beside him. She looked exhausted but determined. "There you are," she said. "I need help in Section 3. We're running out of bedding." Nodded and turned to follow his sister. But before he left, the silver-skinned woman spoke again. "What is your name?" she asked. He said, "Just." "Just," she repeated his name like she was memorizing it. "I will remember that." He did not know then that she was a queen. He did not know that her empire had just fallen, that millions of her people were dead, that she carried their memories like stones in her chest. He only knew that for a moment, in the middle of all that chaos and pain, he had seen something familiar in a stranger's eyes. And she had seen something in his. The message came 3 days after they arrived. Every screen on station flickered at the same moment. Every speaker crackled with the same terrible voice. Every person, human and alien, stopped what they were doing and listened. The face on the screen was not human. It was massive, covered in thick gray-green skin that looked like armor. 4 small eyes glowed red above a mouth full of sharp teeth. Behind the creature, a massive warship stretched into the darkness of space. "I am Warlord Thane of the Dominion," the creature said. Its voice was deep and rough, like rocks grinding together. "I speak to the humans of this station. You are harboring criminals. The Queen and her followers belong to me. They are property of the Dominion." Watched the broadcast from the refugee center. Around him, refugees had frozen in place. Some of the children started crying. The adults held them close, their silver faces pale with fear. "You have 48 hours, Thane continued. "Surrender the Queen. Surrender all refugees. If you do this, we will leave your station in peace. If you refuse..." The screen showed something else. A planet burning, cities collapsing, millions dying in fire and ash. "This is what happened to the last world that the Dominion. Do not make the same mistake. You have 48 hours. Choose wisely." The screens went dark. For a long moment no one moved. Then the chaos began. Push through crowds of frightened people he needed to find. The station's corridors were packed. Humans shouting, aliens crying, security officers trying to maintain order. He had never seen such fear. He found his sister in the refugee administration office. She was surrounded by other aid workers, all talking at once. "We can't hand them over," was saying. "These are innocent people, children, elderly, families." "And if we don't, we all die," another worker shouted back. "Did you see those ships? Did you see what they did to that planet?" "So we sacrifice refugees to save ourselves." Voice was sharp. "That's not who we are." "That's easy for you to say. You're not the one who has to explain to 50,000 humans why we're risking their lives for aliens we just met." Stepped forward. She turned and saw him. Relief flooded her face. She ran to him and hugged him tightly. "Are you okay?" she asked. "I'm fine. What's happening?" "Station Command is meeting right now. They're debating whether to surrender the refugees." Her voice shook with anger. "They're actually debating whether to hand over innocent people to those monsters." Thought about the silver-skinned woman he had met. The Queen, he now knew, though he had not recognized her at the time. He thought about her tired eyes, her quiet strength, the way she had looked at him like he was something real. "What do you want to do?" he asked his sister. "I want to fight," she said. "I want to help them escape, hide them, do something. But I don't know how. I'm not a soldier, I'm just..." "You're not just anything," said. "You're the bravest person I know." Before could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the station. Red lights flashed in the corridors. A voice came over the speakers. "Attention all personnel. Unknown vessels detected in outer dock area. Security teams to sections 12 through 15. This is not a drill." Felt his heart begin to race. They were not waiting for 48 hours. They were here now. "Stay here," he told. "Lock the doors. Keep everyone inside." "Where are you going?" He did not answer. He was already running. The outer docks were near the cargo bay, his territory. He knew every corridor, every shortcut, every hiding place. He moved fast, his body remembering training he had tried to forget. He arrived at Section 12, just as the shooting started. Soldiers smaller than Warlord Thane, but still massive compared to humans, were cutting through an airlock with plasma torches. Station security guards were firing at them. but their weapons barely made a dent in the armor. And behind the security line, a group of refugees huddled against the wall. They had been trying to reach a transport ship. Now they were trapped. Counted 5 children among them. Something changed inside him, something he had locked away for 5 years. He had told himself he was done fighting. He had told himself he was just a cargo worker, nobody special, nobody important. But watching those children press against the wall, watching those creatures tear through the airlock, he could not stand by and do nothing. Grabbed a fallen security officer's weapon. It was a pulse rifle standard issue, similar to what he had used in the military. His hands remembered how to hold it. His eyes remembered how to aim. He fired. The shot hit the lead soldier in the joint between its helmet and neck, one of the few weak points in their armor. The creature stumbled backward, surprised. "Get the refugees out," shouted at the surviving security guards. "Use the maintenance tunnels, I'll cover you." He did not wait to see if they followed his orders. He was already moving, ducking behind crates, firing again and again. They were strong, but they were slow. They expected to fight frightened victims, not someone who knew how to fight back. Led them away from the refugees. He made himself a target. He ran through corridors he knew by heart, setting off fire suppression systems to blind the enemy, closing blast doors to slow them down. It took 20 minutes. By the end, he had killed 3 soldiers. The others retreated to their shuttle and fled. Sat alone in a dark corridor, his back against the wall, his hands shaking. Blood ran from a cut on his forehead. His heart was pounding so hard he could barely breathe. He had fought again. After 5 years of running, of hiding, of trying to be nobody, he had picked up a weapon and fought. He did not know how to feel about that. Footsteps approached. He looked up and saw an officer in military uniform. It was Commander, though did not know his name yet. "You saved those refugees," said. His voice was quiet, respectful. "You killed 3 warriors by yourself. I have never seen a human fight like that." Did not respond. He was too tired. "The Queen will want to know about you," continued. "She looks for hope wherever she can find it. Tonight you gave her some." Offered his hand, looked at it for a long moment. Then slowly he took it and stood. "I'm not a soldier anymore," said. "I'm just a cargo worker." Studied his face. "Perhaps, but cargo workers do not fight like that. Something tells me, human, that you are more than you pretend to be." Had no answer. He walked away, back toward the refugee center, back toward his sister. Behind him, watched him go. Then the commander turned and walked toward the Queen's quarters. He had important news to deliver, was loading crates in the cargo bay when she found him. He had returned to work the day after the attack, pretending nothing had changed. His hands were still sore from holding the rifle. His mind still replayed the faces of the soldiers he had killed, but he kept working because working meant not thinking. "You are a difficult man to find," a voice said behind him. He turned and saw her, the silver-skinned woman from the refugee center, Queen Vila. She wore simple clothes again, nothing that showed her royal status, but she carried herself differently now. There was purpose in her eyes. 2 guards stood behind her, along with Commander. They looked uncomfortable in the cargo bay, surrounded by machines and sweat and noise. "Your Majesty," said. He did not bow. He did not know if he was supposed to. "I didn't expect to see you here." "Commander told me what you did," Vila said. "You saved a group of our refugees. You killed 3 warriors alone. That is remarkable." "I got lucky." "No," she shook her head. "Luck does not explain how you moved, how you fought, how you thought. You have training, real training, military training." His jaw tightened. He turned back to his crates. "That was a long time ago. I'm not that person anymore." "Perhaps not, but that person is still inside you. I saw it in your eyes the first time we met." Vila stepped closer. "I need that person. My people need him." Your Majesty, I'm a cargo worker. I move boxes. That's all I do now. And before, what did you do before? Stopped moving. The memories he had buried were clawing their way to the surface. He could feel them pressing against his chest like a weight. I was a combat medic, he said quietly. Earth United Forces. I served for 8 years. I was part of a rapid response unit. We went into bad situations and pulled people out. What happened? He was silent for a long moment. Vila waited. She did not push. She simply stood there patient like she had all the time in the world. My unit was sent to a colony world, finally said. There was a rebel uprising. We were supposed to evacuate civilians. Simple mission, safe mission. He laughed bitterly. Nothing is ever safe. You lost people. I lost everyone. 19 soldiers. 42 civilians we were trying to protect, all dead because I made the wrong call. I thought a building was clear. It wasn't. The rebels were waiting. Everyone died except me. He turned to face her. His eyes were hard, but she could see the pain behind them. So no, Your Majesty, I'm not the hero you're looking for. I'm the man who got his entire team killed. I'm the man who ran away and hid in a cargo bay because he couldn't face what he had done. Vila was quiet. Then slowly she sat down on a crate across from him. Her guards moved to stop her, but she raised a hand. They stepped back. May I tell you something? She asked. Shrugged, it's your empire. You can do whatever you want. I had 2 daughters, Vila said. Their names were Sira and Luna. They were young, only 40 years old by our counting. Still children, really. They were on a ship near our capital when they attacked. They were supposed to be safe. I told them they would be safe. Her voice remained steady, but could see her hands trembling slightly. The ship was destroyed in the first wave of the attack. They never even had a chance to be afraid. One moment they existed. The next, they were gone. I'm sorry, said. The words felt small and useless. My husband died 3 days later. He was holding my hand when our palace collapsed. A piece of the ceiling crushed him. I tried to pull him free, but I was not strong enough. I had to watch him die. She looked at directly. I carry their names in my heart like stones. Every moment of every day, I feel the weight of everyone I could not save. The 40 million who survived, they are alive because I made impossible choices. But billions more are dead because I made the wrong ones. Stared at her, he had not expected this. He had expected a queen to be distant, untouchable, someone who gave orders from far away. But Vila was not that. She was broken just like him. So you see, she continued, I do not need a hero. Heroes are perfect. Heroes do not fail. I need someone who understands what it means to carry the dead. Someone who knows what failure feels like and gets up anyway. Why asked, what do you want from me? I want you to teach my people to fight. The words hung in the air between them. Your people are pacifists, said. They haven't had soldiers for thousands of years. Yes, and that is why we are dying. Vila stood up. The chose peace. We chose to be artists and scholars and healers. It was a beautiful dream, but dreams do not survive when monsters come. We need to learn to fight or we will be extinct within a year. You can't just turn pacifists into soldiers overnight. No, but we can learn to survive. We can learn to resist. We can learn to be stubborn. She smiled slightly. I have watched humans these past few days. You are not stronger than you are not smarter or more advanced, but you have something they do not understand. What's that? You do not give up. No matter how bad things get, no matter how impossible the odds, you keep fighting. You fight even when you know you will lose. They need that spirit. We need to learn it from someone who has lived it. Was quiet. He thought about his team, the people he had lost. He thought about the guilt that had followed him for 5 years. He thought about the children he had saved in the dock corridor, their frightened faces, their desperate eyes. Before he could answer, the cargo bay doors opened. Minyu walked in, a tall man with a rough beard and a crooked smile. He was oldest friend, a former soldier turned trader, mostly legal, sometimes not. Bad time? Minyu asked, looking at the queen and her guards. What is it? Asked. Minyu's smile faded. The fleet has blockaded the system. All jump points are closed. No one gets in, no one gets out. We're trapped here, brother, all of us. Felt something cold settle in his stomach. He looked at Vila. She met his eyes. It seems, she said quietly, that you no longer have the choice to run away. He wanted to argue. He wanted to say that this was not his fight, that he had nothing left to give. But he looked at Minyu, who had always stood by him. He thought about, who believed in helping others even when it cost her everything. He thought about a people who had never learned to fight because they had chosen to be good. And he realized that Vila was right. There was nowhere left to run. I'll think about it, he said. Vila nodded. It was not a yes, but it was not a no. That is all I ask, she said. Think about it, but do not take too long, the will not wait forever. She turned and walked away, her guards following behind her, watched her go. Minyu stepped beside him. So, want to tell me what that was about? Shook his head slowly. I'm not sure yet, but I think everything is about to change. Outside the cargo bay, the fleet waited in the darkness, and the clock was ticking. The station shook as another missile struck the outer shields. Emergency lights flickered. Alarms screamed through the corridors. Ran toward the command center, pushing past terrified civilians and overwhelmed security officers. The 48 hours had ended. The attack had begun. He found in the refugee shelter, organizing evacuations to the station's intersections. Her face was pale but determined. Central Command is gone, she said. A direct hit. Most of the station council is dead. No one is giving orders. Where's the security chief? Dead, same strike. Felt the weight of the situation pressing down on him. 50,000 humans, 40,000 refugees, no leadership, no plan, an enemy fleet tearing through their defenses. We need to organize, he said. Right now, anyone who can fight, anyone who knows the station's systems, we need them all in one place. Stared at him. You're not in command, you're a cargo worker, I know. He grabbed her shoulders. But someone has to do something, and right now that someone is me. Can you help me or not? She looked at him for a long moment, then she nodded. Tell me what you need. Within an hour, had gathered a small group in a maintenance bay deep in the station's core. Minyu was there, along with a dozen of his trading contacts, rough people who knew how to handle weapons. Brought volunteers from the refugee program. And Commander arrived with 20 officers, the last of the military caste. They stood in a circle, waiting for him to speak. He had never wanted this. He had spent 5 years running from leadership, from responsibility, from the weight of other people's lives. But the station was dying. People were dying. And somewhere out there, the queen he had met in a crowded refugee center was waiting to see if humans were worth believing in. Listen to me, he said. His voice was rough but steady. I know most of you are scared. I know this isn't what any of us signed up for, but they don't care. They're going to kill everyone on this station, human and alike, unless we stop them. How? A young worker asked. We're not soldiers, we don't have weapons. Their ships are destroying our shields. We have something better than weapons, said. We have knowledge. This is our station. We know every corridor, every vent, every system. They are used to fighting enemies who stand in lines and die quietly. They've never fought humans before. Minyu stepped forward. I can get weapons. I know people who have stockpiles, pulse rifles, explosives, armor. It's not much, but it's something. Do it, said. Get everything you can. He turned to. I need you to organize communications. Set up a network using personal devices, anything that works. We need to coordinate without using the main channels. They might be listening. Nodded, I can do that. finally looked at Commander. Your people have never fought before, but they're smart, they're fast, and they can learn. I need them to work with my teams. Humans will lead, will support. Together, we might have a chance. His face was unreadable. For a moment, thought the commander might refuse. They had never taken orders from another species. They were proud, ancient, superior in so many ways. But then bowed his head slightly. My people will follow your lead, he said. Queen Vila believes in you. That is enough for us. Felt something loosen in his chest. Maybe it was fear. Maybe it was hope. He could not tell the difference anymore. Over the next 6 hours, they transformed the station into a trap. Cargo drones were loaded with explosives and sent to patrol the outer corridors. Airlocks were rigged to open on command, ready to flush invading soldiers into space. Maintenance tunnels became ambush points. Fire suppression systems were converted into weapons, ready to flood corridors with freezing chemicals. They proved to be quick learners. They did not have the instinct for violence that humans carried in their blood, but they had something else: precision, patience, the ability to follow complex plans without error. Where humans improvised, they executed perfectly. Found himself teaching tactics he had not used in 5 years. How to set an ambush, how to retreat without panicking, how to fight dirty, striking fast, disappearing, never giving the enemy a fair fight. You fight without honor, observed, watching demonstrate how to use a maintenance vent as an attack point. Honor is a luxury, replied. Right now, all that matters is survival. We can worry about honor after we're alive. Considered this. Then he smiled, a strange expression on his blue face. Perhaps that is what my people have always lacked, the willingness to be flexible. Late that night, Queen Vila broadcast a message to her people. She stood in a small room, surrounded by screens showing the battle outside. Her silver face glowed in the emergency lights. My people, she said, for 20,000 years they chose peace. We believed that violence was beneath us. We believed that our wisdom made us better than those who fought with weapons. We were wrong. Her golden eyes looked directly into the camera. War has found us and we were not ready, but we are ready now. Watch the humans beside you. Learn from them. They are small, short-lived creatures from a single planet far away. They have no ancient wisdom. They have no advanced technology, but they have something we forgot, the fire to survive. She paused. The humans do not fight because they can win. They fight because surrender is simply not who they are. Today, we will fight beside them. Today, we will learn what it means to refuse defeat. And tomorrow, if we survive, we will be something new, something stronger, something that will never be conquered again. The message ended. Across the station, refugees looked at each other with different eyes. Fear was still there, but something else was growing beside it. Determination. In the maintenance bay, watched the broadcast on a small screen. Minyu stood beside him, checking a pulse rifle. That was quite a speech, Minyu said. She means it, replied, every word. And what about you, do you mean it? Looked at his old friend. They had served together, fought together, survived together. Minyu had been there when Unit died. He had been there when gave up and walked away. I spent 5 years running, said. I told myself I wasn't a soldier anymore. I told myself the guilt would go away if I just stopped fighting. Did it work? No, checked his own weapon, the same pulse rifle he had used in the dock corridor. The guilt never goes away, but maybe I can do something with it. Maybe I can turn it into something useful. Minyu clapped him on the shoulder. That's the I remember. Welcome back, brother. The station shook again. Another missile strike. The shields were weakening, they were coming. But for the first time in 5 years, was not running away. He was running toward the fire. They came in waves. Their boarding pods punched through the station's outer hull like fists through paper. Each pod carried a dozen warriors, massive creatures in black armor, carrying weapons that could cut through steel. They expected easy prey. They expected frightened civilians running and screaming. They found something else. The first wave died in the cargo bay. His team had rigged the entire section with explosives. The moment the soldiers entered, the walls erupted in fire and shrapnel. Not one survived. The second wave entered through the residential district. They walked into a maze of sealed doors and dead-end corridors. Technicians had the station's entire layout overnight. They wandered in circles, confused and angry, until human ambush teams struck from the maintenance vents. Fast attacks, then retreat. No fair fights. No mercy. The third wave tried the engineering section. They found the gravity systems had been modified. Some corridors had twice normal gravity, pinning the heavy to the floor. Others had zero gravity, sending them floating helplessly while human and defenders picked them off. In his flagship orbiting the station, Warlord Thane watched the battle with growing fury. His forces had conquered an empire of billions. They had destroyed civilizations older than most stars, and now they were being humiliated by humans, tiny, primitive creatures who should have surrendered the moment they saw his fleet. "What is happening down there?" he demanded. His officers exchanged nervous glances. No one wanted to deliver bad news. "The humans are fighting back, Warlord," one finally said. "They are using unconventional tactics. Our soldiers are not trained for this kind of warfare." "Then send more soldiers. Send all of them." "We have, Warlord. We have lost 400 warriors in the past 3 hours. The station is still holding." Thane slammed his massive fist against his command chair. The metal cracked. "Then I will go myself. Prepare my transport." Back on the station was bleeding. A blade had caught his arm during a close-quarters fight. The wound was deep, but he ignored it. There was no time for pain. He crouched behind a barricade in Section 7, surrounded by human workers and volunteers. They had been fighting for 12 hours straight. Everyone was exhausted. Everyone was scared, but no one was retreating. "They're coming again," Minyu said, peering around the corner. "Big group this time, 20, maybe 30. Ammunition. Low, we've got enough for one more fight, maybe." Looked at his team. There were 15 of them, factory workers, engineers, shopkeepers, people who had never held weapons before this day. And beside them, 10 who had learned to shoot only yesterday. None of them should have survived this long, but they had. "Listen," he said, "we hold this section, no matter what. Behind us is the main refugee shelter. 4,000 people, including children. If we fall, they die." A young human woman spoke up. Her name was, she worked in the station's medical bay. "We know, we're not running." "Good," checked his rifle. "When they come, aim for the joints. Neck, elbows, knees, anywhere the armor is weak, and stay behind cover. These things are strong, but they're not smart. Use that." The charged. The corridor filled with the thunder of pulse rifles and the screams of battle. Fought like a machine, every movement precise, every shot calculated. His team fought beside him, messy, desperate, brave. They were magnificent. They had no experience, no training, nothing but 3 days of learning and 1,000 years of suppressed survival instinct. But they stood their ground. They fired their weapons. They did not run. When the smoke cleared, they were dead, all of them. Slumped against the wall, gasping for breath. His arm was numb. His vision was blurring. Knelt beside him and pressed a bandage against his wound. "You need medical attention," she said. "Later," he pushed himself up. "Right now, I need to get to the Queen." Queen Vila was in the station's command center, a temporary space set up in a maintenance control room. Commander stood beside her, along with a handful of human and officers. They watched the battle on flickering screens. Entered still bleeding, Vila turned to look at him. "You should be resting," she said. "I'll rest when this is over." He moved to stand beside her, looking at the screens. "How bad is it?" "We are winning," sounded surprised. Somehow we are winning. They have lost almost 1,000 soldiers. Their boarding operations have failed. Their fleet is hesitating. They're not used to this, said. They conquer worlds where people give up. They've never fought an enemy that refuses to die. Vila smiled slightly. It seems humans are full of surprises. Before could respond, an alarm screamed. One of the human officers shouted, "Large vessel approaching. It's Thane's flagship. He's coming personally." The room went quiet. Everyone knew what that meant. The warlord was done waiting. He was coming to finish this himself. He will lead his personal guard, said. His elite warriors, they are not like the others. They have never been defeated. Stared at the screen. The massive black ship was descending toward the station, surrounded by fighter escorts. It was death coming on metal wings. He thought about his team, exhausted and wounded. He thought about coordinating evacuations somewhere in the station. He thought about Minu, guarding the cargo bay with the last of their ammunition. And he made a choice. "I need a shuttle," he said. "Something fast and small, and volunteers. 5, maybe 6 people who aren't afraid to die." Vila's golden eyes widened. "You cannot be serious. You want to board his ship. He's coming here to crush us. He thinks he's invincible. He thinks we're just insects waiting to be stepped on." His voice was cold and calm. "I want to prove him wrong. I want to take the fight to him, cut off the head and the body dies. You will be killed." "Probably, but right now he thinks he's going to win. If I can get on that ship, if I can reach him, I can make him doubt. And doubt is all we need. One moment of hesitation and everything changes." Stepped forward, "I will go with you." Looked at him. "You're the Queen's commander. She needs you here." "The Queen needs someone to show my people that they can be warriors again." His face was determined. "I have served her for 200 years. Let me serve her now in a way that matters." Vila was silent for a long moment. Then she turned to. "Bring him back," she said. "Bring yourself back if you can, but if you cannot, make them remember. Make them understand what it means to fight a human." Nodded, there was nothing more to say. He walked out of the command center, beside him. Behind them, Queen Vila watched them go. Her hands were shaking, but she did not call them back. Sometimes hope is a man walking toward certain death because he refuses to believe it is certain. The shuttle was small, old, and barely held together. It was never designed for combat, but it was fast, and fast was all that mattered. Sat in the pilot's seat, his wounded arm wrapped tightly in bandages. Commander was beside him. Behind them sat 4 volunteers, 2 humans and 2 who had stepped forward without hesitation. "We're approaching the flagship," said, watching the sensors. "Their fighters are ignoring us. They think we're just debris." "Good, let them think that." The flagship loomed ahead of them like a mountain of black metal. It was covered with weapons, each one capable of destroying a small city. Thousands of soldiers filled its halls, and somewhere inside, Warlord Thane waited to claim his victory. Aimed the shuttle toward a maintenance hatch on the ship's underside. "Hold on, this is going to hurt." They crashed through the hatch in a shower of sparks and metal. The shuttle slid across the floor of a storage bay, smashing into crates before finally stopping. Alarms began to wail. "Everyone out, move." They ran through corridors that seemed designed for giants. The ship was massive, dark, built for war. Sounds of pursuit echoed behind them, heavy footsteps, angry roars, the hum of charging weapons. Had memorized the ship's layout from captured data. He knew where he was going. They fought their way through guard station after guard station. The volunteers were fast and precise, using techniques had taught them. The humans were brutal and creative, using everything around them as weapons. One fell, then one human. They kept moving. Finally, they reached the command deck. The doors were massive, sealed with layers of security, worked on the controls while covered him. "Almost there," muttered, "almost." The doors opened. Warlord Thane stood waiting for them. He was enormous, nearly 3 meters tall, covered in armor that seemed to be part of his body. His 4 arms held weapons that glowed with deadly energy, his red eyes fixed on with terrible intelligence. "You are the one," Thane said. His voice filled the room like thunder. "The human who has been causing so much trouble. I expected something bigger." Stepped forward, his weapon raised. "Size isn't everything." Thane laughed, a horrible sound like rocks falling. Brave words from a creature whose species has barely left its home planet. "Do you know how many worlds I have conquered? How many civilizations I have destroyed? I don't care about your history, I care about right now. And right now you're losing." "Losing?" Thane's eyes narrowed. "I have never lost. There's a first time for everything." Thane attacked without warning. He moved faster than anything that size should move. His blade swept towards head and barely dodged. The edge cut his cheek, drawing blood. They fought across the command deck, was outmatched in every way: strength, speed, reach, experience. Thane had killed warriors for thousands of years, was just a cargo worker from a small station. But cargo workers learned to think on their feet. Did not try to overpower Thane. He could not win that fight. Instead, he studied. He watched. He learned the rhythm of the warlord's attacks, the patterns in his movements, the tiny delays when he shifted his weight. Thane was used to enemies who fought with honor, who stood their ground and died bravely. He was not used to an enemy who retreated, dodged, refused to engage directly. "Stand still and fight," Thane roared. "Die with dignity, human." "Dignity doesn't win battles," gasped. He was bleeding from a dozen wounds. His vision was blurring. He knew he could not last much longer. But he had learned what he needed. Thane raised all 4 arms for a killing blow and moved, not backward but forward, inside the warlord's guard where those massive arms could not reach. He thrust his knife upward, into the joint where Thane's helmet met his neck, the same weak point he had discovered in the dock corridor weeks ago. Thane staggered. His eyes went wide with shock. No one had ever gotten this close to him. No one had ever drawn his blood. "Impossible," he whispered. Pulled the knife out and stabbed again. And again. He kept stabbing until Thane's massive body crashed to the floor. The command deck was silent. Stood over the fallen warlord, covered in blood, his own and Thane's. His legs were shaking. His vision was dark at the edges. Commander appeared beside him, supporting him before he could fall. "It's done," said. "You did it." The fleet managed. "We need to broadcast." Understood. He moved to the ship's communication controls and opened a channel to every vessel in the system. The image that appeared on their screens was impossible. Their invincible warlord, dead on the floor of his own command deck. A small human standing over him, bloody but alive. Spoke, his voice rough and exhausted. "Thane is dead. Your leader is dead. You have 2 choices. Leave this system and never come back, or stay and join him." He cut the transmission. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then, one by one, the ships began to move. Some turned and fled into the darkness of space. Others shut down their weapons and signaled surrender. The battle was over. Back on station, Queen Vila watched the fleet scatter. Tears ran down her silver face, the first tears she had allowed herself since her daughters died. Stood beside her, watching the same screens. "He did it," whispered. "My brother actually did it." "Yes," Vila's voice was soft. "He did." They found in the flagship's medical bay, barely conscious. A doctor was working on his wounds, using techniques designed for her own people but adapted for human anatomy. Vila entered the room. Commander stepped aside to let her pass. She stood beside the bed where lay. His eyes were half closed, his breathing shallow. He looked small and broken and very, very human. She knelt beside him, a queen bowing to a cargo worker. "You saved us," she said. You saved my people, you saved all of us. Lips moved. She leaned closer to hear. Still not a hero, he whispered, just a man who was tired of running. Vila smiled through her tears. Then you are the best kind of hero, the kind who doesn't think he is one. She took his hand and held it. Silver fingers wrapped around brown ones. Two species, two worlds, connected by something that had no name. Outside the windows, the stars burned in the darkness. They were gone, scattered and defeated. The fleet, what remained of it, was already beginning repairs. Human ships moved alongside them, sharing resources, sharing crews. Something new was being born. Not just an alliance of convenience, but something deeper. Two peoples who had fought together, bled together, survived together. Stood at the observation deck, watching the ships work side by side. Minyu appeared beside her, his arm in a sling, his face bruised but smiling. Hell of a day, he said. Hell of a day, she agreed. Think things will go back to normal. Laughed softly. I don't think anything will ever be normal again, and I think that's okay. She looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, other species were watching. They had heard the stories, how a small station of humans had stood against the Dominion, how a cargo worker had killed the most feared warlord in the sector, how the pacifists for 1,000 generations had learned to fight again. The humans had proven something today, something the galaxy had not understood before. They were small, they were short-lived, they were emotional and unpredictable and strange. But they did not give up. And that made all the difference. In a hospital bed slept. His wounds were healing. His heart was lighter than it had been in 5 years. He dreamed of his team, the 19 soldiers who had died because of his mistake. In the dream, they smiled at him. They forgave him. They told him he had done something good. When he woke, he was no longer a man who carried the dead. He was a man who had earned the right to live. And across the galaxy, whispers spread about the humans, the strange creatures who looked at an impossible war and said, "No, not today." The end.